Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Reaction Time. I'm Jacqueline Cordova and I'm joined by my co-host Ben Visser. Big week. It's Missouri week. It's the last regular duel of the season. Lots of things to discuss. We have a lot of great wrestling to break down, but we'll start with two big headlines for Iowa State wrestling. On a not so light note, unfortunately, it came out in the news that Kysen Terukina, Iowa State's 125 pounder, kind of had some run in with the police, essentially. So, what we've learned, first reported by the Iowa State Daily, was that there seemed to be a warrant out for Kysen Terukina, and it seems that it stemmed from driving without a license while having a suspended license due to being on probation from a past OWI charge.
Yes.
As of right now, there's no commentary from the university. We haven't heard anything from them. All of you will be listening to this on Thursday morning, or assuming you are, but we have availability this week on Thursday afternoon. So Ben and I don't have, any more information than what you guys have from what the Daily's reported, or if you decide to search public records. So with that, really, I don't have much to add on that, except we now find ourselves in a situation of, will Kysen wrestle? Is he done for the season? Will he finish out the rest of the season? And I'm sure those are questions we'll get answered from Kevin Dresser when we get to speak to him. So unless you have anything else to add on that.
Yeah, the only thing would be if Kysen doesn't wrestle, it'll be Ethan Perriman at 125, who was a pretty highly ranked recruit out of high school and has ability. That 125-pound weight for Missouri is Noah Certain, who is very good. So regardless of who wrestles, I would not be expecting a win. So I'm not sure whether or not Kysen wrestles the match. It matters a whole bunch. But it is disappointing that this news comes out now, that he puts himself in this situation now, because you'd like to have no distractions heading into the last dual meet, heading into the postseason and things like that. So,
right.
Yeah, like Jackie said, we'll find out if he wrestles. This is not another OWI.
Yeah.
This is a situation where he was driving with a suspended license on probation. That's what it seems like, at least. So not a huge offense, but one where he had to go to the Story County Jail, post bail, and do that sort of thing. So we'll see if he wrestles. If he doesn't, it'll be Ethan Perriman. But I don't know, regardless, if it matters for the dual meet a whole bunch.
Right.
It would matter for the postseason quite a bit. If Kysen doesn't wrestle, if he's out for the remainder of the year, then right now he is qualified, or he has an allocation. He's earned an allocation for the NCAA tournament. If he does not wrestle in the Big 12s, then the Big 12 loses that allocation, and then Ethan Perriman would have to very much out-wrestle his seed and try to earn a spot that way. So this is a situation where, for wrestling purposes only, it'd be ideal if Kysen wrestled.
Yeah.
But that's not a decision that I make. It's not a decision that we make. That's one that Kevin Dresser and the coaching staff are going to have to make. And again, it's unfortunate that Kysen has put himself in this situation. So those are all my thoughts on that.
Yeah. And I did a very rough search into the student handbook to see if something like this is something that would require an immediate suspension. And it didn't seem like it. Just because, like I said, from what we learned in the story the Daily put out, it sounds like it was just he was driving when he wasn't supposed to. He went to the jail. From what I read, it seems like basically he got there, they read him his information, and then he posted bail immediately. And that specific type of charge or situation, I don't know what to call it, does not meet the criteria that I read in this handbook regarding what would lead to an immediate suspension. So, but like I said, we'll learn more when we talk to Dresser. I'll make sure to have that shared on social media as soon as we talk with him. So more to come on that. And yeah, we'll just have to see where that goes. So,
Mhm.
but in that same weight class, Iowa State got good news last night, or Wednesday night, I should say. Well, Tuesday night. Gosh, got my days all mixed up. Tuesday night, Iowa State got a huge commit from Christian Castillo from Valiant Prep. That's in Arizona. He is the number 10 recruit in the class of 2025. And he is a 2022 U17 World Silver medalist in freestyle. And this is all according to Earl Smith from Intermat, one of my faves. Some other stuff you guys should know about Christian Castillo is he that same year when he got his silver medal, he also represented the U.S. in the Greco-Roman at the same tournament that same weekend in Rome. So that's a lot of wrestling there.
Mhm.
That same year, he also was, how many did he get? It says he captured Pan American gold medals in both styles at 48 kilograms. So
Nice.
good wrestler.
Great wrestler. Yeah, I will
Big
take
deal.
any and all world medalists.
Yeah.
World medalists tend to be very good at wrestling because they wrestle against the world
Yeah.
and get medals. So big fan of that. I think that's a great pickup. Those lower weights are always really tough to recruit because not a lot of people are that size.
Right.
You can find people in the 157 to 197 range. Like there's a bunch of people like that, but they're tough to find. So when you get a good one, tough.
Something I found interesting, just because this is something we don't really see in Iowa, so I would have never necessarily like thought of this. But in the information that Earl provided, he said that because Valiant Prep is that specific school, they're not allowed to compete in the postseason in Arizona.
Interesting.
So Castillo doesn't have any state champion type credentials. Yeah.
I'll take world medals over state champions. So
Right. Like still very,
Yep.
very decorated. Definitely has earned.
that is unique for sure.
But yeah, I did not know that. So excuse me. But yeah, he is predicted to be probably a 125 pounder. And if you look at the future of the lineup, I mean, Evan Frost is sitting pretty comfortable at 133. So
Yep.
I don't anticipate him moving. So he would definitely be a huge get there to have him at 125. So
Absolutely.
but class of 2025. So we have some time.
Yep.
So just some headlines there for Iowa State wrestling, but all eyes are on Iowa State this weekend as they host Missouri, which is super exciting. I feel like we've found ways to talk about Missouri this year.
All throughout since the beginning of the year, we have talked about this duel.
Like I know coaches say they don't circle things, but we do.
We do. We're not coaches.
And this has been circled since day one. So yeah, Missouri's coming to town. They are, gosh, what are they ranked?
7.
Number 7 versus number 5. So, and it's a Big 12 showdown. So we're not only getting a regular duel between these guys, but then we get a preview in terms of the team race for Big 12s. So this is exciting. This is a really exciting duel. There's tons of really great matches. Do you want to look at all of the matches that aren't David Carr-O'Toole, or do you want to start with David Carr and O'Toole?
Right. I was wondering that too. Because like, do we do it? Okay. So Jackie and I were talking about this before. Our assumption is that this dual meet ends with David Carr and Keegan O'Toole.
Right.
So it starts at 174, ends at 165. And I was thinking, why not order the podcast like that too? Let's talk about everyone else and we'll end with David Carr and Keegan O'Toole because that is the absolute showstopper. That's what, I mean, like Jackie said, all eyes are going to be on that match this weekend.
Well, because when I was driving here, I asked myself this because I know we're kind of in a silo and we're pretty good about generally knowing like what's Oklahoma State up to, what's Iowa doing, what's Penn State doing. And if there's really big matches or big upsets, we're paying attention. But like, are there other wrestling rivalries that you think of as much as Keegan O'Toole and David Carr? Like, I'm sure they exist, but is there ones that are as notable as them this season? Because in Flow Wrestling did a really great video about Keegan O'Toole and David Carr, and they were talking about how it's the best rivalry right now in college wrestling. is there any others you can think of? Because I wanted to ask myself, like, am I being biased, or is this really truly across the whole sport?
No, it's for sure across the whole sport. I just went through every weight, and this is like there are going to be some really good matches,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the only one where the guys have history.
Okay.
Like this isn't just number one versus number two.
So
like,
we're not biased.
We're not biased. Like we saw number one versus number two with Parker Kysen and Dustin Plott of Northern Iowa and Oklahoma State. We saw that match, and it was number one versus number two.
Mhm.
But they don't have a history.
Right.
David Carr and Keegan O'Toole have a history. And I think that adds a lot to it. And another thing that adds something to it is they're both world gold medalists.
Mm-hmm.
They're both junior world champions. Dustin Plott and Parker Kysen are not that. So, like, not only do they have a history, but they also have more accolades than everybody else. So they have the personal rivalry, and then they have okay, these are two guys that are probably going to represent the United States of America in Olympic Games and World Championships.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, this is definitely a very unique rivalry. And I'm even trying to think back to seasons past, and like there's probably a few, but none come to mind right now. I'm sure some will later. And if you're a diehard wrestling fan, you think of one, tweet at me, let me know. But yeah, Keegan O'Toole and David Carr is definitely something special.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Definitely of this caliber.
Yeah.
Just because they're just such, like you said, very decorated athletes. So, but all right, then let's do it. Let's start at the top.
The top being 74, the top being 125.
174.
Okay.
Hypothetically speaking, of course. For all we know.
They might start at 125.
Yeah, Dresser might say, screw it. You know, him and Smith, Coach Smith might be like, well, let's just do it the old fashioned way. So, but I'm going to assume that's not what happens. So,
yeah.
All right, 174.
Yeah, 174, you got Peyton Mako of Missouri, number 10 in the country, versus number 19, MJ Gaitan. Peyton Mako feels like he's been around forever, and he's listed as a senior, which, thank you. I would be shocked if he's anything else. Mako's very, very good at wrestling, and we've seen Gaitan be incredibly dangerous. And a lot of Missouri guys are also dangerous. Like Missouri has, generally speaking, no problem rolling around on the mat. So this is one where if you take heart medication, please take it because you're going to need it. This is going to be a match where they're rolling around. Each guy will probably end up on their back at some point. And I'll say this and summarize it this way. If this is a low scoring match where each guys are in single digits score wise, I would be surprised. I think this match could very easily both guys be double digit scoring. Peyton Mako is favored. This is one where I would expect him to win, but never ever count out a pinner. And MJ Gaitan is that. He's proven it time and time again. So all it takes is like, and this is Dresser said this multiple times, all MJ needs is a head and an arm. If he gets those two things, the other guy's on his back and probably getting pinned. So never count out a pinner. MJ Gaitan is that, but Peyton Mako is probably favored. But this is, if it starts out with this match, that sets a fun tone for the rest of the dual meet. I'll say that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I feel like anytime we can put MJ Gaitan in a matchup where he has someone who can really push him to the brink like that, right? Like, I love watching MJ in those really like ones where he is clearly the dominant one. He's going to win. Mm-hmm. But I also really like seeing them challenge just because at the end of the day, it's going to be, it's going to benefit him come March. So I'm definitely excited to see how this goes, just because when we talk about Big 12 championships, these two guys could easily find themselves going at it. And MJ's going to find himself in championship matches.
He will. By the end of his career, for sure, he will be in championship matches.
So it's just one of those where I look forward to seeing him be in those championship level type matches. Mm-hmm. So, and I think he feeds off of these types of environments.
I would agree with that. He seems to be that type of personality.
Like, I'm very curious what the ticket count is at right now. But I just have a feeling that Sunday's like energy is just going to be something that's magical, I guess, in my head, just because of David Carr. But I just see something like this being exactly what guys like MJ and Swiderski, when we get to them, who just feed off of this. So that's my assessment of what I expect. So.
No, starting off with a bang for sure.
But yeah, I guess when you put it into perspective, starting at 174, yeah, my heart rate's going to be through the roof. I'm going to bring my watch. I'm going to remember to bring my watch this time. So, but no, honestly, when you put it that way, it's almost like beneficial to start there. Because regardless of what's going on, like Missouri's going to win 125. So who wants to start with that type of a loss?
Yeah.
You know, not in this environment.
Missouri might.
Well, yeah, Coach Smith might want that.
Jackie talked a little bit about attendance just now. She's not sure what it is going to be, and I don't either. But Chris Andriga, who does statistical stuff for Iowa State, tweeted a couple days ago that the attendance record for non-Iowa duel is 10,100 people. And I would love to see that broken for David Carr's last dual meet. I think that would, I know that would create a very special environment. Hilton is always a special environment, but if you pack over 10,000 people in there, if you get close to a sellout, that would be an absolutely electric atmosphere, and it would be so much fun to be a part of. So if you are a casual wrestling fan or a diehard who doesn't have tickets yet for some reason, pick up some tickets and it'll be worth the price of admission. I can promise you that.
I agree. I went on that tirade last week, like literally be there. Not like there's just so many different factors because MJ Gaitan's match is where we're starting, but there's so many other good matches. Like Younger's match is going to be so good. Like Chittum's going to have a really good match. And that's not even all of them. And then, like I said, Missouri and Iowa State have just like this hate for each other. It's just really getting started, right? Like the back and forth has just really started to ramp up, and it's going to live on well past David and O'Toole. But you have one chance here. You have, as Iowa State fans, not everybody's going to travel down to Tulsa or NCAAs as much as I would love it, right? So why not take advantage of this Sunday afternoon where you get to see that in person? You get to see all 10 matches. You get David Carr and O'Toole. It's David's last match. So as an entertainer, he's going to put on a show. So I think it's just going to be a really, really good duel. Last year, I almost convinced myself to drive down. And it was like on a Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. Yep.
I think it was like middle of the day where I was like, should I? Could I? So no, it definitely is going to be a really good match. And not even just looking at David, who obviously we're going to talk a lot about, but like MJ Gaitan has been phenomenal this season. Evan Frost is so good at wrestling. Like, my God, every time we get to see him in person, he makes it look so easy. He's like such a graceful wrestler. And then Casey Swiderski, I don't think I've ever seen him so confident and like in such a good headspace since he started.
Yep.
Like
agreed.
he just seems so comfortable out there, and he's just so much fun to watch. Cody Chittum is a beast. Like, I enjoy watching him as well. Anthony Echemendia is doing great. Younger Bastida's Younger Bastida. We don't have to sell you on that. Like, there are a million reasons why you should be there.
Yep.
So random rant there. I didn't think we were going to hit it yet, but
no, that's all right. Just another reason to be there. Number 11, Will Feldkamp of Iowa State gets number 14, Clayton Whitting of Missouri. So freshman versus senior there. Freshman Clayton Whitting from Missouri. Where you would expect the senior Will Feldkamp to get it done. This is a guy who is an All-American, returning All-American. And while the freshmen are always scary to wrestle because you're not always quite sure what to expect, this is one where you'd hope experience wins the day. And I'm personally expecting Feldkamp to get this win. So I'll keep track of match by match stuff. But right now I have Missouri probably winning one at 74 and Iowa State winning one at 84. So I got 3-3 right now. But either one of those could go either way. Truly, like realistically, they could kind of be considered a toss up, especially Gaitan because he is a pinner. Like Peyton Mako's favored, but if Gaitan wins, I'm not surprised. So, yeah, you're starting off. If you start off at 74, you're starting off with two top 20 matchups that are going to be really fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. Will Feldkamp's been out with an injury. It was his elbow, right?
Elbow or shoulder, one of those arm joints.
So we haven't seen him in a while. Feels like forever again. this calendar year has been a weird one. So he's coming off this injury. So he's had plenty of time to recover, get back in there. I'm curious to see what Dresser has to say about how he's been recovering. But what we've seen from Feldkamp is that he is a funky guy and he goes in there and he loves to pin. Excuse me. So it's definitely going to be exciting to have him back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping he just feels like 10 out of 10 since he's been out.
Yep.
So.
And minimal mat rust. That is something that's always a little bit of a concern for me. A guy coming back from injury. Swiderski looked great when he was coming back. So hopefully Feldkamp's on that same path coming back from injury. Different injuries, obviously. But it is always scary when a guy comes back from injury because you don't know necessarily where they're at and how they've been conditioning and training in the during their time off. So
well, and this is also Feldkamp's last college duel.
Yep.
Like he's a senior. He's done.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also his final time wrestling in Hilton and his final time of his career wrestling in a regular duel. So an extra added little layer there for him. And, he's older.
Yep.
These COVID years, these extra years, all these guys have. So hopefully he's hit that mindset where it's just like, let's throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is it. What do you have to lose? So hopefully it's a lot of funkiness.
Oh.
I love when it's all over the place and you don't really know what's going to happen.
It makes for fun wrestling.
I'm sure
nervous wrestling, but fun wrestling.
It makes for Dresser to probably actually have high blood pressure.
Yes.
So no, it'll be good. It'll be good to have him back. Not that Tate hasn't been doing good things, but in this type of duel, you definitely want all your strong guys out there. So
yep.
Excited to have Will, and I mean, hopefully Dresser doesn't come and say, just kidding.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate.
But from what it sounded like, they sounded pretty confident that he'd be back this weekend. So we'll see. And then 197, another guy having his last match at Hilton, Julian Broderson. He's an Iowa kid. So I'm sure this is going to be a little emotional too. Just that, he's been here for his whole career. He grew up in Iowa. I'm sure he'll have plenty of family up there watching. So, but he gets a tough one.
Yep.
He gets a tough one.
Rocky Elam, who beat younger Bastida multiple times last year. So this can be tough. This is one where you're not expecting Julian to win. It'd be great if it was competitive. If Julian holds this to a decision, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But I'm not expecting a win. I'm not expecting an upset. This is one where it's very strongly favored Missouri, unfortunately. But Rocky Elam's very good at wrestling. So
Rocky's currently ranked number 10.
Which seems low to me. I was surprised to see that.
Well, he dropped. He was number 8.
Yeah.
So, and he's 9-2 this season so far. So, yeah, no, he was like kind of an annoying like thorn in younger side there. So again, like we said, these are guys that are most likely going to see each other again at Big 12. So,
yep.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a really tough matchup. I think with Julian, it's like heavy on this is your last one, so let it fly. Like you truly have nothing to lose here. Like on paper, you're like this cards are stacked against you, right?
Yep.
Like Rocky Elam, no one's questioning, oh, is he going to win or lose? Like they're counting on this being a win for them. So why not throw it out there? Make it, again, a funky match. Just go for the shot.
See what happens.
Do weird stuff. Try to get a pin.
Try to avoid being pinned.
That too.
I want to say that. This is one where if they do go start at 74, this is one where you don't want to give up 6 points early in the dual meet.
Right.
But hey, I'm all for shooting a few shots and seeing if he can't pull an upset, because if he does, man, that'd be huge. I would. If Julian Broderson finds a way to win, I feel very confident in Iowa State also winning.
I'd pass out. I would pass out on the mat side. So, in like a good way, not like, wow, Julian didn't think he had it in you, but like in a, like, oh my gosh, he did it.
Yeah.
That would be, I really think that Dresser might have a heart attack.
Like, he'd be so happy. He'd be jumping up and down. I was going to say,
I've seen him in that coach's corner.
He'd look like Doug Schwab.
He is like punching the air. He's jumping around. Like, he's not a very expressive coach in the corner. very rarely do you hear him really yell. It's usually like yelling because he wants to make sure he's heard, not so much like yelling from like his emotions. And I think he would be Doug Schwab. He'd be flying. So I would love that for Julian. What a way to go out. It almost makes the losses leading up to it worth it, right? Like holy crap. Can you imagine? Hilton would erupt.
It would, yeah, Hilton would absolutely erupt. It would.
But again, Rocky
not
Elam is
expecting it though.
Very good wrestler.
Yeah.
Like this isn't in any way shitting on Julian Broderson. It's just like, I mean, like we said, Younger lost to him.
Yep.
Like
multiple times.
Yeah. Rocky is a very talented guy. So he's walking on that mat, regardless of the environment, feeling confident about himself. So, and you can't just have one Elam. You have two. Mm-hmm. You have Zach Elam. So Younger and Zach are going head to head here. And Zach Elam is 20-0.
Mm-hmm.
And Younger's 19-0.
Mm-hmm.
So
number 3 versus number 5.
One guy has to walk out with their first loss.
Yeah. Colton Schultz is the one in between them at 7-1, and Younger already beat Colton this year.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, if you would have asked me last year who the better wrestler is between Zach and Rocky, I would have said Rocky because Rocky beat Younger, and Zach was losing to Sam Schuyler. I always said it's heavyweight last year.
Yep.
I think Zach lost to him twice. Once at maybe twice at Big 12s. No, once in the duel and then at Big 12s. He lost both times. So I would have said Rocky was better. But now this year, I mean, you can't deny an undefeated record. 20-0 at any weight for any reason is really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jackie and I have seen Younger for years now. We've seen him this year. We've seen what he's capable of. He is a better wrestler than Sam Schuyler. I think Sam Schuyler would be readily and happily admit to that. So I'm interested to see this matchup with Zach Elam. Because if Sam finds a way and found a way to beat Zach pretty convincingly both times, I don't know why Younger couldn't find that same way. Now, the part where I hesitate a little bit is Zach Elam is really good on top, similar to Rocky. They're both really good top wrestlers. So if Younger, for some reason, gets taken down, which I would not expect, but if he does get taken down, can he get back up? That's the thing that I would be most curious about. And if he gets choice in one of the periods, which you'd assume he does, I would be surprised by a tech fall. If he gets choice in one of the periods, does he choose down or does he choose neutral? We've seen Younger be much, much more confident this year in choosing down, but Zach Elam's not a normal wrestler. He's very good on top. So this is one of those situations where I think one of the only ways Younger loses is if he goes on bottom for some reason, whether it be a takedown or he chooses bottom. So this is one where personally, and I'm really, really interested to see the coaches and Younger strategy when it comes to this, because I might be wrong. They might be super confident in Younger's ability on bottom, and they might be like, you're choosing bottom and you're getting up. But from my perspective, I would be surprised if that happened. I think they'd tell Younger, be neutral the whole time. You are among the best. Him and Greg Kirkfleet are the two best on their feet at heavyweight, bar none. There's a gap. Like it's Greg, Younger, and then a giant gap everyone else when it comes to on their feet wrestling. We're going takedowns. It's those two and everybody else. So I want Younger to be in his strongest position possible for as long as possible. And for that, I'm just like, Younger, choose neutral. Let's see what you got. Now, the match situation might dictate that a little bit, but if it comes down to a takedown, I like Younger in that situation, and it might come down to that. It could be a 5-3 type of match, 5-2 type of match. So we'll see what happens, but both undefeated wrestlers, like Jackie said, one of them is going to have to go home with a loss. If Younger does lose, it would not be a bad loss by any stretch of the imagination. But this is one where if Younger's going to contend for an NCAA title with Greg Kirkfleet, Younger's got to win this one. He's got to go to Big 12s, and he's either got to beat Zach again, or he's got to beat Wyatt Hendrickson, or maybe he has to beat both. Probably has to beat both, because he'd be the 2 seed, and then Rocky or Zach would be the 3 seed. So that he'd have to beat Zach to get to Wyatt, and he'd have to beat Wyatt to be Big 12 champion. If he does that, then yeah, he's looking at Greg Kirkfleet for the NCAAs. But long story short, this is going to be an incredible match.
Well, and what I was going to say is that the thing with Zach, Rocky and Zach, the thing with Zach, I think, and like you just explained, I think that both guys are very dominant over each other in two very different ways, right? And I feel like Younger has just a slight edge being able to be so good on his feet,
Yep.
which is something that I think will really slow down Zach because he's not used to that.
No.
And so I really do think that if Younger can do exactly what he does every single match, just quick on his feet and just really tire him out, because I really do think that Zach is good. Obviously, he's ranked in the top 10, but I think that that's where he might have like dominance over Younger, maybe in one period. But I just feel confident that Younger will just have that slight edge because of that.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just not normal heavyweight behavior. And we're seeing that change as guys keep, bumping up, and you have, like Greg Kirkfleet, and you have Keeter at Iowa. Like, it's becoming slowly more and more common to be a more like lighter heavyweight. There's more action. You're not seeing the 3-to-1s, 2-to-1s. Or in the last match, I had to look it up. It looks like Sam lost to Zach in the duel last year, 5-3.
Okay.
Like, I don't anticipate that being. I think it'll be low scoring because I don't think Younger will be able to score on Zach the way he's been scoring on other guys. But I just think he's gonna have that tiny little edge. I think he's tire him out.
Yeah.
So, or at least fingers crossed. So. But that one's going to be a really good match. Like, this is a match that we'll probably see again. Like, I really do think it's either it's between these two and then Colton Schultz and Wyatt Hendrickson who's going to get in the championship match.
Yep.
Like, it's these four.
Yep.
So.
And Kirkfleet's going to be there. Like, unless he gets hurt, he'll be waiting for someone.
And then NCAA.
Yeah. And then it's either going to be Hendrickson, Younger, Colton, or Elam. Because I think, Lucas Davison from Michigan is out at this point. He's 13-3.
Yep.
Younger beat him. 2 other guys have beat him. So, there's 4 options for Greg, and we'll see which one he gets.
Fingers crossed, right? For the Younger Bastida fan club, which I hear shirts are coming.
Shirts are coming. Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. Younger Bastida shirts are coming. Anyways.
We're being serious about that too, by the way. It sounds like we're joking. We're not. Younger Bastida shirts are on their way.
No, we shout out to the forums. I hear most of them sit in 113. Someone reached out to me and was like, hey, are we going to do this? And we've tried. We were patient in the past of just like Younger had to figure out some of his stuff and had to make sure that the NIL
because NIL for international athletes is different.
Yeah. So, and we're now in a place where Younger can do NIL. So we've, Mike, our t-shirt guy, and I have spoken with Younger and talked designing, and let's just say it sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. It's definitely Younger doing his signature pickups.
Okay.
Let's go with that. So as soon as we have more on that and something to share, I will obviously get that out as soon as possible. So super exciting. So, but at 125, like we said, Missouri is again favored here. I don't think it truly matters who goes out.
Don't give up bonus points. It's similar to 197. Don't give up bonus points.
Just make sure, if you're going to lose, just don't give up those bonus points to Missouri, because every point is going to matter in a matchup like this. So you got to be smart. So not much to add on there. Like I said, it's truly just going to depend who Iowa State sends out. But 133, Evan Frost.
Yeah, Evan Frost, what's he at now? 7. He's got number 22, Cade Moore, who is a fellow freshman from Missouri. This is one where we've talked about Missouri being heavy favorites at 97 and 25. This is one where Evan Frost should be a heavy favorite. This is one where I would expect Evan Frost to win. I don't know if I would expect bonus points necessarily, but a comfortable 8-3 win, something in that realm, I think is very much on the table. Evan has just looked so good this year. He's looked so fluid. It's hard to believe he's a freshman. He does not wrestle like one at all. And we're talking about now, but it's also exciting for the future, just because wow, this guy's he's a guy. He's a long-term guy. And this is one where if he's going to continue to be a long-term guy, you got to win this match and hopefully win it pretty handily.
Yeah, I think the thing with Evan Frost, like I said, is he does everything so gracefully and he shows like no emotions. And not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's like St. John. They just, they have pretty straight, they like, gosh, what's the word? They just,
Like statues, they're stone-faced.
Yeah, they're just stone-faced. They clearly don't like get too high or too low. So watching him, it's just like your blood pressure is definitely not going up because as you're watching him, it's just again so graceful. Like the last match he won by like I don't even know a tech fall was it?
Fall, yep.
I didn't even realize we were at that point. Just because I was so like focused in on them. I when I'm down there, I'll have my camera up, but then I'll use this eye to keep looking at the scoreboard to check the time. I didn't do that once because I was just watching him. So he does it with ease. And I think that's a really good thing to have because it's almost like you don't crack under pressure, right?
Yep.
Like this is a really high stakes duel. And I just feel like Evan Frost is the perfect guy to just like truly means it if he said it, oh, I'm not bothered by the rankings or I don't pay attention to those things. I would believe him if he said it. I would 100% believe him.
Yep.
So, no, I'm any chance to have him out there and especially when he's favored to continue racking in those points and keep making a argument to be ranked higher. I think that's a great opportunity for him. So, but then we got 141, Anthony Etchemendia, who's been fantastic for Iowa State this season. Talk about his match.
Yeah, he's got Josh Edmond from Missouri, who's number 24. This is another one similar to the Evan Frost match where Etchemendia is favored heavily. And we've seen Etchemendia be able to put up a lot of points. Again, similar to Younger. These guys are Cubans. They grew up wrestling freestyle. They're really good on their feet.
Yep.
So this is one where Etchemendia is going to have a chance at bonus points. And probably a better chance than Evan Frost does just because he is so good on his feet. So this is one where I don't want to say I expect bonus points, but bonus points would be super beneficial for Iowa State at this weight, especially if you give up bonus points at 97 or 25. So this is one where Iowa State can either make up ground or pull away, depending on how the match is going, how the dual meet's going. We just saw Anthony Etchemendia come off a really good win against number 6 Cale Happel of UNI. Where he showed off a lot of his ability on his feet. I mean, he literally threw Cale Happel on his head.
Yeah.
So Etchemendia is really good on his feet. He's really fun to watch wrestle. And this is one where it should be an Iowa State win and hopefully bonus points.
Yeah, he has definitely improved a lot. Like we might have talked about it prior to recording, how a few weeks ago, Coach sat Etchemendia out. He had a tweak to his ankle, I think, but it sounded like it was also more of like a mental reset. And I feel like after watching him wrestle this last time here at home, when he talked about how he finally felt the confidence to do that flip that landed Cale Happel on his head, I feel like it did a lot. It did exactly what Dresser wanted it to, right? What was it Dresser said? Like, sometimes you look like a genius or you come out looking like an idiot.
Yep.
Well, this time he came out looking like a genius because I do think it did exactly what they were hoping it would. And I'm hoping that Anthony is feeling so confident just even after his Cale Happel win that he comes in and does even more.
Yep.
Sets himself apart even more, goes for a tech fall. Like I could see him getting a tech fall if he's really in
it's
the
on
zone.
The table for sure.
So no, he's definitely someone like Younger, quick on his feet. He's so fun to watch because there's just a lot going on. There's not very many matches where you see Anthony just kind of hanging around or stuck on bottom. Like those are not very common for him. And those are the matches I enjoy.
Yep.
I like my heart rate to be spiked during a match. So, but no, I'm excited to see what he can do. He's only going to get even more exciting. I think Anthony's one of those guys that I think is going to do really well in a tournament setting.
Agreed.
So,
yep.
I feel like we're going to see him peak in March. So,
yep. Absolutely.
But
then 49, you got number 6, Casey Swiderski.
Yep.
Love seeing him at number 6. That's super exciting after last year. And he obviously went through some struggles, both due to injury and he said it, his mental. He's young. But he's looking incredible. He's got, again, number 24, Logan. Boy, don't know how to pronounce the last name. Looks like giraffe, but it's not. He's got, number 24 Logan Giraffe. Again, that's not how I pronounce it, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So this is another one where Swiderski's going to be heavy favorite for the third match in a row, which in and of itself, love that. 33, 41, 49. This is where Iowa State can make up a lot of ground, pull away, do all of those sorts of things. This is one, again, where Casey, if he's on his game, bonus points on the table. He could get a major decision. Tech fall might be difficult, but major decisions absolutely on the table. Bare minimum a win. I would be, with the way Casey's wrestling, with, like Jackie said, we haven't seen Casey look like this. His mentals right now are great. He's wrestling with confidence. When he does get a little bit too much, he's able to be reined in. We saw that a couple weeks ago where St. John's like, hey, focus, get your head right. And he was able to do that. And he's able to get was it a sudden victory win or a takedown late in the third period? It's one of those two. And able to secure a win late in the match. And yeah, Casey's just wrestling really, really well right now. And I'd take him up against almost anyone right now, because if I look at who's at 149, I mean, technically there's a couple guys that might be better than him, but I wouldn't feel confident picking them over Casey. So like a guy like Caleb Henson from Virginia Tech, I don't know why he would be better than Casey Swiderski right now. So yeah, I love the way Casey's wrestling. He's developed that low ankle, the ankle pick, whatever you want to call it. And it's really become a great go-to shot for him. And it's been tough for guys to stop, which it's fun to see.
Well, and that's what Aiden and I talked about last week when we were sitting here. We kind of just went through the lineup, looked at everyone's records, and from a Big 12 standpoint,
he's favored to win the Big 12 right now.
Yeah,
he absolutely is.
Like Casey Swiderski, he is in a position where it looks like nothing can stop him. So I'm excited for him. I really want him to have that redemption from like that sour taste in his mouth from last season, which clearly we've seen how he's progressed since then. And yeah, I think going into this match this Sunday where he's heavily favored is only going to call for a fun match. Like I feel like Casey's kind of getting to that place where we see David Carr, right? Where David's heavily favored. So we know he's going to have fun stuff cooking, right? Like he's going to have something, some kind of move, something. He's just going to do something that's going to be entertaining. And that's what I kind of feel you can see from Casey. And yeah, like you said, I'm excited because he's just been so confident. He's so fun to be around. He has so many great answers for
He's a phenomenal interview. Really good.
He is I think he's probably the most confident person in that room right now about what he believes this team is capable of.
Yep.
So I feel like, again, going back to this atmosphere thing, who's going to feed off of this? Casey Swiderski. I can just see him being that ringleader of like, we're doing this, we're winning.
Yep.
And especially
he's the future leader of this team. I feel I have little to no doubt about that. Once David Carr's gone, Casey Swiderski, I believe, will be the future leader of this team.
Yeah. It's nice to see it really obvious, because I feel like in years past, it wasn't that obvious.
No.
It wasn't clear, like, okay, who's going to step up? Who's going to be a leader in this room other than David?
Yep.
And yeah, no, you're right. Casey's he's very vocal every single week about how much he thinks this team can win a title.
And he's been backing it up, which is the thing that I want to see. And he's done nothing short of be exactly what Iowa State needs him to be.
So we'll have a good fun one with him on Sunday. And then you go to Cody Chittum, who has a tough opponent.
Brock Mahler. Another one that feels like he's been around forever, similar to Peyton Mako. I'm just like, how are you still wrestling?
I know.
And this is essentially the inverse of 184, where Brock Mahler is the senior instead of Will Feldkamp being the senior, and Cody Chittum's a freshman instead of Whitting being the freshman. So this is pretty much the exact inverse. Brock Mahler's ranked number 11. Cody Chittum's ranked number 14. It's one where you probably give the edge to the senior just because they're a senior.
Right.
But we've seen Cody Chittum be really good against good guys.
Yeah.
So this is one where if Cody is on his game and he's able to roll around a little bit, like he does, bend his knee in directions that shouldn't be bent.
My gosh.
It could be a really fun match. Every time I think about Cody Chittum, I just think about that Jared Franek match. It's like, boy, if he has literally another half second, he wins that. So every time I think about him, it's like I go back to that. It's like he can beat a top 5 guy. And Brock Mahler's ranked number 11. So I don't see a reason why Cody can't win. Again, I'm not necessarily expecting a win.
Yeah.
But it's not off the table at all. This isn't like some heavy favorite Missouri match. This is a toss-up, probably leaning Missouri, but it is still a toss-up.
I just looked up last year's match just because I couldn't remember, because I feel like I remember Brock Mahler losing to Iowa State in some match, and it was like I don't know that anyone expected it, and I can't remember. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe it was someone else. But last year, Brock Mahler pinned Panera Johnson in sudden victory. Right?
Was he at 49 last year? Yeah, he was.
Because I remember watching it on
Yeah.
I was watching it at home because this Missouri hasn't been to Ames since what year? What season
Willie
did
Miklas.
Willie Miklas graduate?
That was what,
2018?
19?
Yeah, so it's been a while. So I remember watching it at home, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what shocked me. I don't know. Let me pull up the full breakdown. But I know Brock Mahler pinned Panero, and I thought it was in
Well, and then Panero won Big 12, so Panero got him back at the Big 12 championship.
Yes.
And it wasn't close either. Panero won that pretty handily. Because I think he was so upset that he lost that match because it wasn't the match he should have won.
And I feel like when you put Brock Mahler against Cody Chittum, I think the thing with Cody Chittum, and I think we easily forget that Chittum is a freshman.
True freshman. Yep.
So like there are growing pains. There are certain things that he still needs to figure out and learn. And it's really easy to forget that when you know how good they are, right? Like with David Carr, it made sense that we would expect him to always do the right thing at all times. But even then, I remember Coach said there were things that they were able to really clean up with David to really propel him into success. Whereas right now with Chittum, it's like we're watching him learn those things that most guys learn during their redshirt year, and they're going to tournaments and we aren't really seeing it.
Well, David's first match as a Cyclone was a loss. His very first match, his redshirt year, was a loss against some no-name Air Force kid at the Cyclone Open. So, like, that's something that no one remembers because he was redshirting. Cody Chittum is not redshirting, and he's just being thrown into the fire and almost beating top 10 guys. And I think he does have a top 10 win this year. So, no, Chittum he's wrestling really well right now. He has an opportunity absolutely to beat Brock Mahler. And
yeah, I think he can do it. I think he can truly do it if he goes in there head on, just like, I feel like the mental is so big. If he can just be ready to throw it out there and just, I don't even know how to describe it. It makes me think of like when Coach talks about guys that lose in sudden victory, like you should have never found yourself in sudden victory in the first place. Like if he can just avoid going to sudden victory and just like, or I don't know, I guess maybe go to sudden victory and get the takedown. But I think Cody Chittum can do it.
Yeah.
Just because we've seen Brock Mahler be beat before. So I have high hopes on that one. Yeah. Not in a like I have high expectations. I just have a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And if Cody Chittum loses, you guys can yell at me on Twitter. But I just have a gut feeling that this is going to be the one where Cody Chittum gets it, because we watched him not get it against Jared Franek, and that sucked because he was just like right there. And then it was like the one against you and I, same thing. He was just right there. Like he's just right there. So I just feel like this time he's going to get it. He's going to be on the other side of it. So, but we'll see. Maybe I'm just a Brock Mahler hater.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to remember. Cody Chittum beat Ja'Cory Teamer from Arizona State, who's ranked number 3 right now. It's like he beat a top 5 guy, and it was Ja'Cory Teamer. So why not Brock Mahler right now?
Yep.
So
I'm cashing it in. Like if I'm a betting woman, that's what I'm betting on.
All
Cody
right.
Chittum winning. So not that I bet. I'm not really a sports bettor.
No, I'm not either.
So when you did your math, before we talk about Keegan and David, did you add up your prediction?
Yep.
What was it?
So going into the 165-pound match, I have 12 to 15.
Okay. 12 to 15 going into 165.
Yep. No, it was 15 to 13. 15 to 13. With Missouri getting 1 bonus points out of the possible of 25 or 97. Iowa State currently has 15 in my scenario.
Okay.
So Iowa State's up 15 to 13 going into the last match. Keegan O'Toole, David Carr. Essentially, the winner of the match decides the winner of the duel. Keegan wins. This isn't one. I mean, I know David pinned Keegan last year.
Yeah.
This is not one where you're expecting bonus points either way. So it's either Keegan wins and Missouri wins 16 to 15, or David wins and Iowa State wins 18 to 13. So it's, I mean, we can get into the accolades. Should we get into all the accolades of David Carr and Keegan O'Toole?
So I'll start with this, and then you can read us off these accolades.
Yeah.
When David made the decision to move up.
Yep.
Because let's not forget, David started his career at 157. So him and Keegan have not always, like, this isn't something that started when, David started college. But when it was apparent, like, David's moving up, that's where he's going. And it was like very quickly, everyone's like, all right, it's going to be David Carr, Keegan O'Toole. Keegan O'Toole said, this is a quote that I have from March. Keegan O'Toole said, "It was a blessing having someone like David Carr move up. He's such an elite level wrestler and has been for a while. I hate losing, but those losses are much more important and much more valuable to my character and how I bounce back." So, and David Carr also followed up to that and said, "I look forward to wrestling him every single time because he pushes me." So, like, that's straight from them. That's how they speak on each other. Like, these are two guys that have like so much respect for each other. I remember at the end of Big 12s, I think it was, David like said that when it all comes down to it, it's Keegan O'Toole who makes like this worth it because he gets to compete against someone, because David would never come out and say it because David is David. And we've talked about how he is not good on trash talk. He's not good being selfish, but like, it has to suck to wrestle guys that won't wrestle you. That for someone like David, that's boring.
Yep.
Like, you want the adrenaline, you want to be like on the edge of your seat through the entire match. And he doesn't get that very often because guys know that they're just, the moment they give him a shot, they're going to be twisted into a pretzel and David's going to destroy him. And with O'Toole, give or take, if I remember correctly, when David beat him in the duel last season, Keegan kind of wrestled safe. So I'll give Keegan that if I remember correctly, he did wrestle a little safer in that match. But the thing with these two guys is that they know each other so well and they probably study each other so much. They have to get crafty. They have to play to each other's styles. And these two guys are not guys that are scared to take shots and try and get each other down. So I feel like as we prepare to go into the next, 8 weeks of the back and forth between these two.
6 weeks, right?
Is it? Yeah. It's like, it's condensed, right? Like, we start this Sunday and then in 2 weeks we'll be in Tulsa. And then in 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, we'll be back at it in Kansas City. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it will be.
So.
To your point about these guys they don't wrestle safe against each other. They both let it fly. And to your point last year, Keegan did wrestle safe. But that was a situation where he likes to roll around on the mat. And I remember Dresser saying this after the dual meet, when we had him that next Tuesday, because it was down in Missouri. So when they came back, he's like, I could tell their strategy was to make David take the shots and then have Keegan try to out scramble him. Because they weren't sure that Dave would be able to out scramble Keegan, because Keegan was so confident in his ability to do that. And David being David, he's so technically perfect. Guys like Greg Kirkfleet are phenomenal wrestlers. They're great on their feet, but they're explosive and more athletic than everybody. David Carr is as close to a technically perfect wrestler as you're going to find. Like, when he gets in on a leg, he's finishing the shot almost always. And I think that's something that Missouri and Keegan O'Toole didn't expect at the dual meet last year. So then when you go fast forward to the Big 12s, and that match is so super tight, they both get takedowns. They're both really getting after it. And then it goes to sudden victory. David locks up a cradle and pins him, which electric, right? Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
But we see him open up and we see him wanting to wrestle David. And like Jackie said, we don't see that often. Like people, we've seen so many times people just throw it in reverse and back up the whole time and seemingly somehow not get called for stalling more often than not, which I do not understand. Or guys wrestling from a knee, which just infuriates me on the spot.
Yep.
So Keegan O'Toole does not do that. Keegan O'Toole has my utmost respect. And then we see the NCAAs, the championship. Keegan gets that match. And again, it's because he's being aggressive. It's because he's wanting to wrestle David. And does that match suck? Does it suck that David lost? Yes, it does. But it wasn't a loss where David was forcing all the action and the guy just threw it in reverse and got a lucky takedown. Keegan beat him. And he shot shots. He finished shots, which again is really hard to do on David Carr because he's so technically sound. So this is a match where you're going to see some incredibly high level wrestling. Like it's going to be when we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, where this is 2 junior world champions, 2 of the best in the entire world for their age group. 2 guys that'll be representing the United States in the Olympic Games and World Championships going forward for years to come, probably. Guys that will have very good chances to take home Olympic gold medals and world gold medals. To be able to see that in a dual meet in Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa, is an unbelievable opportunity to see 2 of the world's absolute best at their sport. When else do you see that? Like, I suppose you see that in basketball every now and again at the college level, but also not really. Like, Iowa State has a very good team. Houston has a very good team. We just saw a top 10, almost a top 5 matchup in basketball. But which of those guys on those teams were both among the best in the world? Right. None. And they're both top 10 teams. This is truly 2 of the best in the entire world going at it. And you're going to see some incredible high level wrestling that will probably knock you back. I don't know whether or not David's going to win. If I were a betting man, like Jackie said earlier, I would bet on David to win this match because, like Jackie has said, it's his last match in Hilton. It's going to be hopefully a pretty packed house. The atmosphere is going to be electric. He's going to want revenge from March of last year. That's not to say it's a guaranteed win. Keegan O'Toole is an incredible wrestler. But if you gave me odds, I would take David Carr.
I think the only time that I watch David wrestle and my heart like stops in terms of like, I don't know where this is going to go, it's against Keegan O'Toole. It's the only time I truly can't like, and it's not a knock on David at all. It is just that David and Keegan are just so good. They're so good. And I feel more confident about David winning in Hilton. I think when you want to talk about like home court advantage, right? Home mat advantage. I think David has it. I think that he is just going to be feeling all sorts of things and feeling real confident. I mean, his dad's going to be, Matt's side. It's his last time there. It's like that whole like wrestle free type of thing. And I think in this environment, and not that I think it'll shake Keegan O'Toole, because I don't think Keegan O'Toole gets shaken.
Yep, agreed.
But like, I think that David will just have the extra oomph that he needs. But I still think it could go either way. Like, I really do think it could. And when you look at it, like, okay, these guys are literally going to wrestle each other 3 times in 6 weeks. That's a really big, like statistical nightmare when you sit and think about of like, okay, who's going to win? Like, I can't confidently tell you that David's going to win all 3.
No, not a chance.
But I know there are people who feel that way, and they should. It's fans. A lot of fans feel that way, and they should. They're the fans. But I feel like after seeing what these guys look like head to head, it is so hard to truly guess, because I think whoever wins on Sunday, they're going to be the heavy favorite now. All the big heads are going to be like, all right, XYZ, whoever wins it, they're favored to win the Big 12. And that's what we're going to go into. That's what the narrative's going to be. And then it could swing again. So
it happened last year.
We're just going to be sitting literally with no idea who's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think you're ever going to know until we're in it.
Nope. And it's going to be the same time, all 3 matches.
Yep.
When they meet in Tulsa, because it is a win, unless there's an injury, which knock on wood, it's going to be when they meet in Tulsa. When it's in Kansas City, it's going to be when they meet in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Like these 2 guys will meet 3 times this season. One of them is going to be this Sunday. And then each of the next 2 times is going to be just as unpredictable as this time. I think David wins just because it's at home, like Jackie said, and it's his last time in Hilton. But I don't know. They're both incredible wrestlers.
Yeah. I shout out to Andy, as we always like to give shout outs to Andy, the SID for Iowa State Wrestling.
Also up for Wrestling SID of the Year.
Yep. Shout out. He put together, he titled it Setting the Stage, Carr versus O'Toole. And he went back and gave you basically a recap of their 3 matches from last year. So if any of you who are listening weren't able to watch these, when they wrestled in Columbia, David won 7-2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to see if it was in the match or if it ever went. Okay. Yeah. Carr rode him out. See, that's why I was like, he just kind of played it safe there.
Yep.
He rode O'Toole out the entire 3rd period. So he earned 1 point for riding time. So 6 weren't takedowns essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first one. And then in Tulsa for Big 12s, they went into sudden victory and Carr pinned O'Toole. So that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That was nuts. I remember we talked about it. Oklahoma State fans were losing their minds.
Yes, they were.
Oklahoma State fans dominate the Big 12s. If you've never seen pictures, they take over the whole freaking middle section.
Yep.
And they were sat and quiet watching David and Keegan. But then you go to NCAAs, unfortunately, and David lost to Keegan 8-2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're talking a very sudden random pin that may not happen again. And both were literally 7-2, 8-2.
Yep.
So like that's what we're working with here. And I don't think it's going to be any different.
And both those 7-2 and 8-2 matches were much closer than the score indicated.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the 8-2 match, because I vividly remember David Carr almost getting a takedown at the end of the 2nd period, but the ref didn't award it. It was a reaction time situation. I understand why it wasn't a takedown, but if it would have been ruled a takedown, it also, I think, would have been the right call. It's very much a judgment call. Ref didn't award it. And then David gave up a late takedown while he was being super aggressive. That's really what put the match apart. But if David gets awarded that takedown, he wrestles that 3rd period way different.
Right.
So this is going to be such a good match. It's going to be great.
Well, and another thing that Andy noted was that this would be David's dual record is 65-0 going into this Sunday.
That's insane. It's obviously not Cale Sanderson, but like that's almost Cale Sanderson level where you're not losing at all.
But like he's going in there.
Yeah.
Like he's going in the records. I'm not sure. Sorry, I should have done that research and I'll have it in my write-up for this week, but I'm curious where he lands in that record book. Because I mean, if you ask David, in the past, we've gotten him to talk about being a legacy and talk about records. I mean, those records mean something to him.
Yeah.
You know, his dad has had such an impactful career. Like you don't talk about David without talking about Nate Carr Sr. So like the implications of winning on Sunday and ending your career 66-0 in dual record, like that's insane.
The only 2 that come to the top of my mind are Cale and Dan Gable, because Dan Gable's one loss came in the tournament, the NCAA tournament, in the finals. So those 2 for sure have an undefeated dual record. And then beyond that, I don't know who else would be. So if David can join their company, that's pretty good company to join.
I can try and scan these record books real quick, but yeah, no, I think there's definitely a lot on the line, probably for both guys.
Mm-hmm.
In all 3 of their matches. Like David winning a title at the Big 12 championships, he would become a 5-time conference champion.
Yep.
And he would be the only one, assuming, let's say Dayton Fix wins, which I'm going to assume Dayton Fix from Oklahoma State's going to win.
Yep.
That would mean that him and Dayton Fix are the only 5-time conference champions.
Yep.
So like that's a big accomplishment.
Huge. And
then you look at being an NCAA champion, that's all they ever dream of, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure if you do, yeah, I think if you go back and you look at interviews, like all guys talk about is wanting to be national champions.
Yep.
So like this is just, yeah, it's huge. But why don't you tell us Keegan O'Toole and David Carr's collegiate honors?
Yep. I'll start with Keegan O'Toole, 2-time national champion, 3-time NCAA All-American, 3-time NCAA qualifier, 2-time Dan Hodge Trophy finalist, 2022 Big 12 champion, 2021 MAC champion, back when Missouri was in the MAC, 2021 junior world champion, 2021 freshman of the year, 2022 Southern Scuffle champion, 3-time scholar All-American, 2-time academic Big 12, USA Wrestling Athlete of the Week, Big 12 Athlete of the Week multiple times, MAC Wrestler of the Week multiple times. David Carr, Iowa State Male Athlete of the Year in 21 and 23, 4-time NCAA qualifier, 4-time All-American, 4-time Big 12 champion, 2-time Big 12 Wrestler of the Week, 3-time Scholar All-American, 4-time Big 12 All-American, or All Big 12. So he's got Keegan O'Toole on that one in terms of academics. 2023 NCAA runner-up, 2023 Big 12 champion, most outstanding wrestler. Academic All-American 2022, third place, 2021 Hodge Trophy finalist, 21 NCAA champion, 21 Big 12 Wrestler of the Year, Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll, 2022 U.S. Senior National Team Member, 2022 U23 World Team Member, 2020 World Freestyle National 6th place, 2019 Junior World Champion, 2019 UWW Junior National Champion, and then 2018 Dave Schultz Memorial Invitational 4th place finisher. Is that enough accolades for everybody?
Are you out of breath?
Almost.
These are very decorated humans.
Yeah, very high-level wrestlers. If I hadn't convinced you before, I hope I did now.
So 4-time conference champions. It is David Carr, Cale Sanderson, Tim Krieger. I'm going to say their last names wrong. Tim Krieger got his championships in 86, 87, 88, and 89.
There you go.
And then Pete Galea. Someone's going to get mad at us.
A lot of people are going to get mad at us.
But
apologies to diehards.
In the 70s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, David Carr will add a little line there for Andy to add for 5-time conference champion. So, yeah, it's just what David Carr has done for Iowa State. I know we talked about it a few weeks ago, but like everybody talks about like the Brock Purdy impact, right? Like just what an impact he made. Or you talk about Iowa State basketball players, and we look at so many guys who had just
Monte Morris, George Niang, those guys.
But like we need to talk about David Carr more. Like he alone as an individual like resurged this program.
Yep.
Like he was just a kid. He was an 18-year-old kid with a very decorated high school career, a legacy, coming in to be at the center of this rebuild for Kevin Dresser, and of course we know David's a really big family guy and we know what being a legacy means to him. Like this is really important to him, but like someone of his caliber could have easily gone somewhere else.
I remember when he committed to Iowa State, Ohio State fans, because David Carr from Perry, Ohio, Ohio State fans were furious because they thought they had him.
Yeah.
Ohio State really thought that they had David Carr. And imagine a world where that happens.
Yeah.
So,
like,
because they had Kyle Snyder at the time. That was when Kyle Snyder's dominance was going through. Ohio State was challenging Penn State, all of those things. Ohio State fans were really feeling themselves. And they thought they had David Carr locked up, and he picked Iowa State. A rebuild, a total rebuild.
Like he just, I mean, you covered KJ and where that program was, and they were just not in a great place.
They didn't win a dual meet. It was like Steve Prohm's last year.
Like no one cared.
Didn't win a conference. Steve Prohm didn't win a conference game his last year. KJ didn't win a dual meet his last year.
Yeah, like Kevin Jackson's doing great things now. He found a way better situation where he's
and I love the
excelling.
guy. Truly, KJ is one of the nicest guys on the planet, but at the end of his tenure was not good.
Yeah, and Dresser always says it. Like I knew what I signed up for. I knew what this was going to be, and Dresser's known for his rebuild, right? Like that's what his career shows. he's the guy to call when you want to rebuild.
And Virginia Tech, he did it. Iowa State did it. Yeah,
he's
got something.
He's doing great things at Iowa State, and we've been at the, we've been in, what is it, in like front row to it. We've covered him since he started, and David Carr is just like, you can't even put into words like just what an impact and how much we'll feel the impact he made for your years to come.
Yep.
And we're not even done watching him wrestle.
Yep.
And we won't be after he leaves Iowa State. So it's just, I really hope people go and watch him in his last duel and fill those stands because he deserves it. I know something like that matters to him. And all the time we've spent with him, he loves Hilton Coliseum, and again, it's like his dad had such an impact. Like looking back at his dad's career, like I was thinking of Nate and Monday, their rivalry. And now you have David in this really like crazy rivalry with Keegan O'Toole, who today I was watching Flow Wrestling's video and they called him the babyface assassin, which is such a good nickname because he has such a baby face.
He sure does.
But I just can't believe our days are numbered with David Carr. And he's just been so great for this university. Like Jamie Pollard, I'm sure he's a happy guy to have someone like David Carr, who's not only such a phenomenal competitor, but such a great advocate for the university. Like all he ever does is talk about how great it is here.
Yeah. And like, he's a student athlete. Like we just talked, like I just said, he's a 4-time all Big 12 guy.
Right.
He's a academic All-American number of times. So like, this isn't just a one-trick pony where he's a really good wrestler.
Right.
He is also a great student. And like Jackie said, he's a wonderful ambassador for the university. So like he is, if you were to give a coach a picture of perfection for a student athlete, they would take David Carr. Like, yep, that's the guy. Or they take a Brock Purdy type because Brock was that exact same way. Not quite charismatic as David.
I was going to say, I'd almost argue David's even more.
Yeah, he is. David's way more charismatic. So nothing against Brock, but talking to him is essentially like talking to Matt Campbell's clone. So
that is true. And I think David gets it from his dad.
For sure.
Like,
Nate Carr is incredible.
Talk to Nate Carr, you're going to run through a brick wall.
Yep.
Like truly every time I talk to Nate Carr, I feel like he just uplifted me. And we won't even talk about anything that serious. It'll just be like, hey, how are you doing? How's life?
Yep.
And suddenly he just talked your ear off and you're ready to conquer the world.
Yep.
So yeah, Sunday's going to be sad. Like end of an era. Like what a career David Carr has had.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. How many of Iowa State's current top-ranked guys, the Casey Swiderskis, the Cody Chittums of the world, the younger Bastidas, especially younger Bastida, how many of those guys are Iowa State if David's not here? None, right? Like especially younger, because I mean, younger's talked about it this year, like reuniting with David after they met at the Junior World Champions, which David won, and I think younger got a silver medal in. That was part of the reason why that younger felt comfortable committing to Iowa State, because David was here and he already had that relationship.
Yeah.
So like how many of those guys are here? So,
and like something we've never really talked about on the podcast, my favorite thing to do is look at social media followings in the world of NIL. Like it's very easy to sleep on wrestlers because you're just like, that sport doesn't make very much money for universities. Like it just doesn't really matter. But like David Carr is a household name in wrestling. He has a huge following.
Massive.
Like he did not NIL truly, like David didn't need it to be bolstered in like popularity, like I can only imagine like what NIL does for someone like David, who already had such a big following, but like David is very, very popular, has very high social media followings. Like you've said before, this isn't just a really good athlete in Ames, Iowa.
Yep.
Like this is someone who's known around the world. So, and we get to cover his last duel on Sunday.
And you should all be there. You get to be there.
Yeah. Like it's not that hard. Sunday. Just go to Ames like you do any other day. Like you go to any other sporting event. But if you can't, you can watch it on ESPN Plus.
Yep. I'm sure Kyven will be on the call. He's a great listen.
Yep. I do really enjoy Kyven. Actually, he's very knowledgeable. And he has like a really, just like the way he talks, he just does such a good job of like breaking things down and explaining. And again, very knowledgeable. So he brings a lot of really great insight into the guys that are wrestling and what's going on the mat. And yeah, we can shout out to Kysen. He does a great job. So, like I said, if you can't be there, watch on ESPN Plus. Otherwise, go to Ames. It's at 2 p.m. What else are you doing? You can start the load of laundry on your way out. I hear the CRTC is having a tailgate. The weather's nice. If the sun's out, go get some sun.
Yep.
Nate Carr, I think, is speaking. So again, talk about a guy who will make you run through a brick wall. He'll be there. It's a whiteout, so wear white. I know some people were doubting Iowa State fans about wearing white, but I think they do a pretty good job based on what I've seen at basketball. So go buy your tickets. It's going to be a really good duel. Like if you want to experience a duel where it doesn't have the added layer that the Cyhawk does, because the Cyhawk is an incredible atmosphere, but it's a hostile environment. So you gotta really mentally prepare for that one.
You gotta be ready.
Whereas with this one, I think even though Missouri and Iowa State want to rip each other's heads off, you're gonna have fun.
Yep.
And right now you can buy a general admission ticket for $8.
$8 to watch the two best in the world and 9 other matches.
Literally, like these guys are going to win Olympic medals. Like I could talk about this for hours because I can do this with NCAAs. It's crazy to me that this is an event where we get to sit with the best athletes in the country in one place. What sports give you that opportunity? Not many. They don't. They just don't. So now I'm feeling like I could run through a brick wall about this. Anyways, $8. We'll get you in the door to see this duel. We told you all the great matches. It's going to be so much fun. David Carr probably will do a backflip, to be honest with you guys. If he wins, I'm not going to put it past him. Like, I'm sure him and Metcalf maybe have something cooked. They like to do that. Yeah. So that's my final commentary is just go to the duel on Sunday. It's going to be great. David Carr deserves it. I don't even care if that makes me sound like uber biased. Like David is an athlete that it has truly been a privilege to cover his entire collegiate career. So I'll get on my soapbox for him any day. He's a great guy. He is. Really good kid. So what's your final thoughts? Final thoughts are I'm very excited. And that's it. Those are all the thoughts. We're pumped. I have expounded as much as I can. I am very excited. Aiden, do you have any? Shout out Fareway. Shout out to Fareway. Another season. We still have the postseason, and thankfully they support us through the postseason. But shout out to Fareway for making it all possible. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Ben and I will, like I said, we'll be at the duel. As always, we'll be tweeting away and sharing everything we possibly can to bring the last duel of the season, the best coverage we can. Absolutely crazy that we're at the end of the season. Well, end of duel season. So, but yeah, as always, thanks for listening and shout out to Fareway.